Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria, your host of the Sanity Project podcast, and I welcome you to another amazing episode. Today's guest is Jen Moff, M-O-F-F. Jen is the pioneer of the mindfulness-based manifestation method and founder of magicalmindfulness.com. Jen Moff helps burned-out businesswomen invest in exquisite self-care, releasing their inner rock star and embracing radical intimacy. Jen has published the Mindful Life Map on Amazon and released Mindfulness 1.0, a meditation album on iTunes. She also helps growing startups reduce stress and shift mindsets, increasing employee engagement. She's been praised by best-selling author Scott Berkun and Launch Out Conference for her authentic compassion, fresh perspectives, and on-point comedic timing. Jen is going to speak to us today about how to use meditation and mindfulness to promote stress relief and employee engagement to raise internal employee net promoter scores. Welcome to the show, Jen Moff.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm grateful that you are here because you're going to be talking about things that I know our audience loves. Our audience consists of IT pros, but also other people who sneak on and don't want to let anybody else know. So what is your perspective on using meditation and mindfulness to promote stress relief?
I came to learn about mindfulness after a lot of burnout and stress in my own professional career. In fact, I had to step away to kind of recenter myself and figure out what it is that I actually wanted. And when you're in a fast-paced, high-growth work environment in tech, it's very, very easy to keep adding things to your list, keep adding things to your workload, and feel like it's never enough, and I'm always having to keep ahead of everything. And so you get in your head a lot. I know that I definitely did. And it's very easy to start overthinking and over planning and over researching and trying all those overs that basically keep you in this constant go, go, go mode. And mindfulness was originally, established in the East for philosophical reasons and lifestyle reasons, and brought over to the West by Jon Kabat-Zinn, 40 or so years ago. And his pioneering of the mindfulness-based stress reduction as a secular healing modality for people with mental health issues, it just really kind of blew up. And I found that I used it in a little bit different of a way than many people. I started using it for that reason, but then it also gave me a whole nother layer of I'd say power, essentially, because when I was able to kind of quiet my mind, I wasn't in that overthinking, over planning, over researching, overdoing mode. And it helped me really reconnect to myself so I could hear that inner voice, so I'd know how to make decisions more effortlessly. I'd be able to take care of myself and trust myself much more easily. And that allowed me to work way, way less than I had been. And the time that I did spend working was much more fun and productive and enjoyable, which I don't know anybody that doesn't want those things. Am I right?
Absolutely. How do you think your mindfulness approach helped you have more power?
Yeah,
I'm assuming personal power, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes, stay away.
Correct. So I would say the simplest way I can explain this is mindfulness at its core is about radical self-compassion and the consciousness of neutrality. And those are, big fancy terms for basically saying be really nice to yourself.
Yeah.
Stop
I've studied.
assigning.
I study Buddhism. I've been practicing it for years. So
Beautiful.
neutrality is the
It's a big
highest
one.
place to be.
It's a big, beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful place. The idea of staying in just like non-attachment, not labeling things, not assigning something any kind of extreme polar assessment. It's not good or it's not bad, that, which is hard for people a lot of the times. We live in a very black and white driven kind of society. But when I was able to tap into this neutral space, I was able to just no longer buy in to that voice in my head that exists for so many of us, that helps hinder our highest potential. So if I was able to recognize this voice is going to keep happening, I'm never going to be able to actually shut it up, turn it off, silence it completely, because I was able to separate my true self from it. I then got to say, okay, I'm going to assign you a job. Your job is to be the saboteur. I get that, but I'm not going to pay you anymore. And you're basically fired. You're welcome to keep working, but you're going to be working for free. And I don't know why you would do that, but please continue if you so choose. Meanwhile, I'm over here and I'm going to start asking myself, what are the actual things that I care about? What are the things that I want to learn? What are the things that I want to become and do that are larger than myself, that mean something? And by just being able to step into the space of the observer, it was profound for me. It wasn't just about, oh, okay, well, now I don't have to listen to that stuff, so I'm less stressed, and I don't have to buy in, so I can relax now. Oh, peace and fairy love. Whoop-a-doo. No, it was really much more concrete and grounded than that. It was very powerful to be able to say, I'm not that voice. So what do I get to do instead? Who do I get to be instead?
Yeah, because you have to fill the space or else close the door totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something you have to do. People never pay attention to completing the entire process. When they get rid of something, that space sits there. And then if they're not cautious enough or smart enough or conscientious enough to either, make everything smaller, they just leave the door open, and the saboteur's nephews and nieces come in, and they're there.
It's a party.
It's a party,
Yay.
and the drama goes on because, this, as they say, somebody said this years ago, the world abhors a vacuum, so they will fill it with something.
Yes.
As people do all day long, every day now, since the internet was created.
Oh, it's exactly the same thing as people that have more addictive type of personalities, that they, are seeking to use X to avoid Y. If they never truly deal with Y, they're just going to be bouncing around from this type of addiction, that type of addiction. It could be, alcohol, drugs, sex, materialism, gambling. There's tons of things that we use to avoid.
Sure.
So it's exactly what you're saying. It's just this bouncing around because people aren't willing to deal with the root problem. And in the tech space, I think in IT, it's very easy to think very concretely, because everything exists in this land of ones and zeros, and we want to be able to quantify things and get very literal and linear. And there's a book I read years ago called The Fuzzy and the Techie. And it was really fascinating, just the juxtaposition between how those who studied more fine arts and humanities things when they went to college really helped support those who studied more technical type pursuits when they were in college and then went on to do those things professionally. How those two things actually match much more closely than people realize. So I'm really glad to see mindfulness being brought into tech startups and IT developers as just a regular part of doing business, as taking care of their employees, because it's absolutely essential.
Well, the IT world is broad. It's much broader than the engineers, and the some of the people, managers, directors, and even people who are concerned with, interaction and agile and, robots and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, they're a little more whole-brained. In fact, there's
Yes.
quite a huge commodity of, right-brained individuals who do work in IT. And they are more apt to want to move forward and be clear about their lives and what they want, where people who are just engineers, I say just engineers, my God. Okay, I've diminished you engineers who are listening. Just ignore me. Don't pay attention to it. But
Just tune it out.
if that's what you are, it doesn't matter to you. What matters to you are the ones and the zeros and the codes and how to make things work. But for everybody else, the people who manage them and people who run the companies, that's not enough. They have to do more. They have to be like real people, entrepreneurs, business owners,
Mm-hmm.
etc., who need a full brain approach. Hopefully a full brain approach. More
75%.
yeah, and if they can get a more whole brain approach, they have a more balanced workplace, because you cannot just be inside that screen. That's not where you need to be.
No, I
So
think that that's a beautiful bit of insight. Just if you're listening and you do want to maybe move up, this is a key area that you can work on to help make yourself more desirable to leadership to see you in another light. So definitely work on, rounding out your skill set with this stuff.
yeah, and it's almost a never-ending list of skills that are required to work in that world. And
so true.
From dealing with the higher end, let's get to the moon and robots, to writing. I mean, simple thing is writing. People need to write real words on real paper. So it's a complex community that not many people are aware of. One woman I had as a guest said that she heard what she heard when I said IT. She heard people who you can call up who will help you fix your computer.
Oh, yes.
So it's an education for people when I say it's a little more than that.
Yes.
But it's also people who are surrounded by these computers all day long. They need help. They need to have this mind. Everybody needs mindfulness. I mean, it's, Buddhists started it. I don't even know that they started
Gosh.
it. That was how they lived, and this still how they live to this day. They think clearly, and to them, mindfulness is thinking, and it's a clarity of purpose that they have to be as neutral as possible and not be attached to anything, and just see it as it comes across and let it go. So, how do you see this promoting stress relief in a worker, employee, contract, anybody?
Yeah, and anyone, but specifically, within the IT space, internet technology, as you said, is really vast. Let's make up a character, for example. So maybe an HR representative who is also helping out in the recruitment space at their company, and they're a quickly growing tech startup. They maybe find themselves working way more than they did at their last job, and they know that startup environments are a little bit different. I'm being asked to pull a little bit more weight than I would at an established company, but I'm okay with it because I get to make an impact. And so slowly their task load gets more and more and more robust. The hours they end up working are longer and longer and longer. The partner they may have outside of work gets the worst of them, whereas the company gets, so to speak, the best of them, which the more they're working, the less quality output they're providing. So a company in that situation would really benefit from somebody like myself coming in and doing one of a couple things. So as a consultant, what we can do is basically do an audit to see where the problems are, that people are unhappy with their work-life balance, are unhappy with wellness providing tools that the company offers, just general life happiness. And because there's so many different companies that our lovely HR/recruiter could work at, they really want to make sure that they're providing things to keep them there, to make sure that they are a desirable company in the marketplace. So after we do this initial audit to find out what the problems are, we can offer a number of things. So you could bring in someone like myself to do power coaching, teaching days where we spend one-on-one time with somebody, where they get dedicated time, maybe once a week. This could be for anybody that's interested in it, but specifically for this HR rep and recruiter, how valuable to take 1 hour out of their day to spend time with a dedicated person who is there solely to focus on them and what they need in order to feel more relaxed in their job, providing them not only the tools to use outside of the session, but work through some things with them, teaching them the formal and the informal practice and guided meditations, as well as just techniques that having a mindful view of life provides. So then they leave this session and they can go back out immediately experiencing the benefits, because studies have shown, you know this as well as I do, how quickly you can benefit from a 5-minute guided meditation. The instant levels of your heart rate and blood pressure will drop, just promoting relaxation in the body, doing additional breath work when you're feeling anxiety because now this poor person is 5 hours later and something else, a fire showed up on her desk she has to put out. So being able to utilize those tools on the fly helps somebody feel, one, more empowered over their own life, but also feel that this company really does care about me as a person rather than just my output. And I think that is something that people are craving right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely.
No, I totally agree with you. They crave it. They have to see. It's as if they want to be convinced that it will work.
Mm-hmm.
They want something. They don't know what that something is. When it's determined that the something is, this hour a day per 1 hour per person per week-ish, then they just hope and pray that their investment has a good return and that people are more effective, less stressed, and reduces infighting, because there's a lot of that. Just like throwing bombs this way and that way. But I think that I get what you're doing, and I know it makes a lot of sense. And I think the companies appreciate the outcome. And now more people have to be aware of that. More people have to not only be aware of the benefits, but also be aware that it's a doable process.
Absolutely.
It's not something in a foreign language that nobody else knows, because you're keeping them focused on something that will be beneficial, and it's a teachable thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's interesting. Some of the other things that I'll find people or companies request for me is to come in and do a workshop of sorts, and basically introductions to this concept, how to have kind of a mild, mindful approach to your entire well-being. And they think, oh, well, if we bring in, from a cost perspective, they're thinking that's way more beneficial. Just have a large group come in, people can even dial in remotely, and you do an hour-long talk. Great. And on paper, certainly that looks good, and that's planting an important seed and a valuable seed. But this is not like a one and done thing. This is something that is, like you said, it's learned, it's honed, and it's developed. It's a practice. It's a lifestyle. You don't all of a sudden start eating differently completely because you had a salad for lunch one day and
right.
for the rest of the week. Same bit of logic.
Yeah, well, the managers, the leaders, whoever is in charge of making the decision do want to see a one and done, because that's easy for them. They'll say, well, what they're looking at, part of what they are looking at is that they've accomplished what the employees have asked for. I did it.
Yep.
I don't have to do it again. I did it. And it's insufficient to the task because people need it more consistently. Whether they create their own subgroups within there who would meet on their own, that's also a thing that they could do. But after a while, that phase is out because they don't have they're not detached.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they can't do it. They need an outsider to come in to help them do that, help them move forward.
Absolutely.
And reduce.
I've seen exactly that same thing as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And it does make sense from a fiscal standpoint, from a manpower standpoint. I get it completely. But you're right. People will try and do something in-house and just have kind of like a ragtag team of people put together to, do something ad hoc. And it has that initial excitement because it's new, and that always gets everybody. Just
Of
like,
course.
a new restaurant popped up. Everybody's
Sure.
going to be there for the first 90
Absolutely.
days.
Absolutely.
And then things just get run of the mill, and it comes down to prioritizing, what's really important to you, which is another area that I think mindfulness really helps, is identifying what your real values are. If you say that you value X, but your behaviors don't align with it, really, it's just an appreciation. It's not a true value, because value is rooted in behavior. So there's some elements of teaching that are also really important, I think, from a leadership standpoint, to show people what it means to care for yourself in this way, because this is an emotional wellness tool, and that's another area I'm sure you've seen. There's a notion that wellness is literally, let's get everybody standing desks. We'll put some apples in the break room. We'll get them as part of their, benefits package, an allocated amount for gym resources. Maybe we'll have one in-house, and done. Bob's your uncle. We've got a wellness program.
That's all BS. It doesn't work. It's just like kindergarten. It's just like, let's give the kids, they can have their milk and their cookie, and then they can take a nap. It's infantilizing the employees, number one. Totally, absolutely. And I find it totally insulting. And yes, I don't care who's listening, because you have to know that this is what it is. Infantilizing the employee. And you cannot do that and have people who are willing to contribute. They're not going to want to. And also, I think that when leaders, we'll just call them leaders, whether their titles are manager or VP or whatever, they need to do it first.
Yes.
Because if the crap rolls downhill, so does the good stuff. And they need to do it first and set an example so that they understand what the employee is going to be experiencing. Obviously not on a personal level, but on a pragmatic level. But you can't just say, okay, give that to them. I don't need it. Well, you're part of the it. You're part of all of it. So it's your community, your world, your business, your environment, and you have to participate as well. And in fact, I think you should participate first.
Oh, absolutely. There's an interesting startup here. It's a SaaS company called Yesware. And the last time I heard anything about them was about a year ago, so this may be outdated. But as of that time, the founder was a practicing Buddhist and definitely brought his beliefs and lifestyle into the office, not in an overt, I'm here to change your religion way, but in a, let me show you how important it is to nurture and care for yourself. You can have improved relationships, improve your own health. Part of their benefits package provided in-house coaching to every employee. I think everyone got like 10 sessions or something, and then they qualified for a discounted rate through that provider outside of the office. They had daily meditations, like everybody broke from their work to go like it was just so refreshing to find out that this is something from the top down was being not only, practiced, but embraced because people wanted to work there. And I think that's a really great case study for what's possible in the tech space for future.
Oh, absolutely. It's necessary. It's vital because I've discovered that most of the people who are in information technology are overworked. They are doing the jobs of two in one and not getting paid commensurate with that. And they are working so hard, they're exhausted. So there's no way they can have any work-life balance. There's not enough time. Even though it's not about time, you still need some time in order to, create the great package of work-life balance. But if they're overworked at work, there's nothing left at the end of a 12-hour day. you you can't, there's no there. And
it's interesting. I did some studying on Google years ago, and I've gone down the rabbit hole. So I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this. Large companies really do want to embrace like this in-house vibrant culture. They want everybody bought into their mission. They want, this kind of cohesive like entity that's the basically the population that works there. And people will initially get really bought into it, and they're like, oh man, they've got us food in the mornings and we've got lunch. Like, I don't even have to go anywhere. And all my friends work here. I know everybody. It's just, and it's this weird kind of indoctrination of you're either one of us or you're not.
It's a cult. It's a cult.
There you are.
It's a cult.
There you are. And what happens in cults? People are not healthy. That's for damn sure.
No, but that's what they turned it into, as a cult. And I won't name names because it's just ridiculous. Everybody knows. If people who are listening to this are intelligent enough to know, either they can check it out on Detective Google, or they already know. But it's a cult. You've infantilized people, you've taken their skills, you've used them up, dried them up, throw them a few bones during the day. Oh, I can, bounce on my bouncy ball or whatever it is. But you have you have a cult, and a cult is just not effective. Over time, they will either pass away, literally just fade away, or they will revolt if they find one person who might have some energy in the room. But the mission statement has to have values that you are in alignment with. And I just wrote about that I'm, it'll be public, whatever. I write daily emails, and I just wrote about that. You are not in alignment with the company's mission and values, don't work there. And if you are in alignment with the mission and company's mission and values, you must work those values. You must act as if those values are practiced every day. And everybody in the company has to do that, at least in your department. That's all you can do, depending upon how large, some of these companies are huge.
Oh, gosh, yes.
You never know who works there or with you or for you. So we could go on for about another hour, but I'd like you to, we're changing the world here one day at a time. So I'd like you to come up with something that someone who's listening to this show, and I always tell people, because I like telling people and what to do. We listen to, I'm a good teller. I'm from New York. Just do it. So re-listen to this podcast. You think you heard everything that Jen said, and you haven't. You have to re-listen to it in context of what she is talking about. At least once, maybe twice more. Do it in your car. I don't care where you do it. So give the audience, Jen, something they can do almost right now.
One of the things that always makes people laugh when I tell them this, but I find it to be quite effective, and everyone has access. Regardless of where you are and you feel like basically you don't have a moment to yourself to kind of practice even like the shortest meditation, you go to the bathroom every day. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But while you're there, even if it's at work and you're like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, you can step into a stall with your phone and your headphones and give yourself a few minutes to do some breath work. The 4-7-8 technique is powerful for shifting our nervous system into one of relaxation. So you'd inhale for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale for 8 out the mouth after breathing in through the nose. And while we're in that space, just continuing that breath work in as little as 5 minutes or less, you're going to be in a much better place than you were when you stepped into that stall. So there's access to private places. It might not be ideal, but you always have access to a bathroom.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to remind everybody that Jen has written a workbook called The Mindful Life Map, which is on Amazon, and she has published Mindfulness 1.0, a meditation album, on iTunes. You can reach her at thejenmoff.com, JenMoff.com. And I thank everybody for listening. Please go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com and sign up to receive my daily emails, and you'll receive a free copy of The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on my podcast page. And get a free copy of my book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.